Democratic Representative Jamie Raskin is back with another amazing takedown of Donald Trump, MAGA, and now the Supreme Court, specifically the ultra-right-wing conservative justices who sit on the Supreme Court. So tonight, Jamie Raskin was on Joy Reid on MSNBC, and he was asked about Donald Trump's immunity claims before the Supreme Court this morning, where Trump and his lawyers were arguing that Donald Trump is immune from any and all criminal prosecution. There is no accountability for him there simply because he was a former president of the United States. Now, of course, that is an absurd argument, and Jamie Raskin agrees. He tore into Donald Trump and these conservative justices, specifically Justice Samuel Alito, who tried to do everything in their power to make Donald Trump's arguments make a little bit of sense, trying to convince his fellow justices to give Donald Trump a free pass. So I have a couple of clips to show you from this interview tonight, and they're both amazing. So here's the first clip of Jamie Raskin just going in on all of these folks.
The most astonishing thing for me today was Justice Alito's question. He actually asked whether holding the president criminally accountable for actual crimes committed, whether murder or coup or you name it, whether holding them accountable would actually encourage them to stage more violent coups to stay in office to avoid prosecution, which buys completely into Donald Trump's narcissistic criminal worldview. I mean, for all of American history, we've said presidents are subject to criminal prosecution if they commit crimes. That's why Gerald Ford pardoned Richard Nixon. That's why Bill Clinton agreed to give up his law license with the bar for 5 years so he wouldn't face criminal prosecution. Now they say, well, if you're really mean to Donald Trump and you hold him accountable the way every other American citizen is accountable, then he'll really overthrow the government. He'll really bring out the big guns, and we can't afford that. And that's a kind of masochistic capitulationism to Donald Trump's authoritarianism. I mean, of course, we've got to hold the president accountable to the law. I mean, it's the basic premise of our law that nobody is above the law, including the president. And when they say, oh, well, you can impeach and convict him and then you could prosecute him, again, that twists the language and turns it upside down in the Constitution. It says, even if you're impeached and convicted, nevertheless, you can still be prosecuted and tried and convicted and punished, presupposing that, of course, the president is subject to criminal law. And now we've got a bunch of justices who are asking questions that indicate that they are as corrupted as members of Congress who I serve with. When we get through this period, this miserable period of American history, and we will get through it, and we're going to beat them all in November, which is the only solution to this nonsense. These people are going to be fit only for selling incense and flowers at Dulles Airport.
Oh, man, just tearing into them. This is why we love Jamie Raskin, and he himself is actually a lawyer as well, so he knows what he's talking about, and you can kind of tell in the way he's laying it out. And I love how he started his answer with focusing on Justice Samuel Alito, who really tried to argue in his questioning that if we don't grant immunity to presidents like Donald Trump, then somehow there would be more coups, that it would actually encourage presidents to try to hold coups to stay in office, which is absurd, because if there's no immunity, then there's no protection. So they actually would be held criminally liable, as opposed to Donald Trump's theory of which they could hold coup after coup after coup, and there would be no criminal liability. They could go scot-free. Justice Alito just walked right in to Donald Trump's narcissistic authoritarian vision for America, presenting this absurd notion that coups would somehow be more likely if there's not immunity than if there is. He's playing right into Donald Trump's hand, and I have to believe that it's intentional. I have to believe that Justice Alito is doing this to give his little buddy Donald Trump a benefit, give him a +1. Come on, man. I mean, the arguments we hear from these conservative justices nowadays are so absurd that, like, a fifth grader could tear into them. Just tear into these arguments and take them down one by one. Seriously, I mean, come on. And I love the point that Jamie Raskin made about presidents before who have avoided criminal prosecution either via pardon with Richard Nixon or with Bill Clinton just giving up his law license for 5 years. These are measures that were taken so they wouldn't be criminally charged. If immunity existed and it was clear to everybody that this should be a thing, then Richard Nixon didn't have to be pardoned. Bill Clinton didn't have to give up his law license. But no, it is a common understanding that anybody and everybody, no matter who you are, whether you're a janitor, whether you're an electrician, whether you're president of the United States, that you can face criminal charges if you break the law, and accountability applies equally to everybody. But Donald Trump and his MAGA lawyers and these MAGA Supreme Court justices are trying to rewrite the script. They're trying to rewrite the Constitution that is very clear on this. And Jamie Raskin makes a point about the impeachment clause in the Constitution, where it says you can still face criminal charges even if you're not impeached. And if you are impeached, it's perfectly fine. You can still face accountability. The Constitution is clear on this, but Donald Trump and Alito and Clarence Thomas and Brett Kavanaugh and Neil Gorsuch are trying to rewrite the Constitution right in front of our faces. Right in front of our faces in live oral arguments. I mean, seriously, the arguments that Donald Trump made before the court today are entirely against the foundation of the United States, the values and morals that we were built off of. And, a lot of these justices will do whatever Donald Trump wants. They do his bidding. It feels as if Trump and his lawyers could go before the Supreme Court and say, justices, we think the sky is yellow. We think it's yellow, and that's why you should side with us on this matter. And then Justice Clarence Thomas and Justice Alito will turn to his fellow justices and be like, well, what if it is yellow? Maybe there's something there that we don't know. Well, let's investigate this further, and let's give them a shot. Maybe it is yellow. Maybe the sky is a different color than how everybody sees it. And then the Trump lawyers will be like as well, and actually we think that grass is blue. Yeah. It's the liberals who are making grass green. We think it's blue, actually. And the Supreme Court justices on the right, again, will be like, well, they make a compelling argument that the grass might be blue. It feels as if whatever Donald Trump and his lawyers argue, these conservative justices attempt to find a way to make it happen, to make it make sense, to make it law. And even if the Constitution is explicit about this stuff, it is pretty clear with immunity, they'll find a way. They'll find a way. And on that point of the Supreme Court just kind of doing whatever Donald Trump wants them to do or the Republican Party wants them to do, here's a clip of Jamie Raskin in that interview telling them to relocate.
Well, they're politicians who are not even subject to popular election, unlike me. They should move the Supreme Court over to the RNC headquarters because they're acting like a bunch of partisan operatives.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, it really does feel like a lot of these Supreme Court justices are politicians. Clarence Thomas's wife advocating for the overturning of the 2020 election, Justice Alito posing insane questions like this, just doing Donald Trump's bidding. And of course, Trump's justices before that as well, the ones he appointed, do the same. Just crazy. Maybe they should relocate to the RNC headquarters. They seem to be fitting in there. They should just wear MAGA hats to the next hearings, right? They try to act as impartial or give the perception that they're impartial. But maybe they should just take out the MAGA hat from the closet and put it on and wear them to the hearings, because we all know that they have them. We all know that they have the MAGA hats. We all know that they're voting for Donald Trump, not only in a political way in the election, but also on literally any case that comes before him where he is arguing. They'll vote for him. Crazy. But, Jamie Raskin didn't hold back. So glad to see him out there slamming the Supreme Court for their obvious bias in these cases whenever Donald Trump's involved. And it's just great to see. So I will leave the video there. Thank you so much for watching. I greatly appreciate you being here. Make sure to subscribe down below. It goes such a long way. I greatly appreciate it. Drop a like on the video, comment, let me know what you think. Share the video with anybody you think needs to see it. And as always, I appreciate you, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.